everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 157 in year 4, ladies and gentlemen, starting it all anew. For those of you that have been here from day one, thank you so much. If you're new here, this podcast started when Tom King killed Alfred. And you know what? We're about to talk about, it's actually kind of poetic because fucking today, we're going to talk about Alfred coming back. And in the shittiest way possible.
We are going to talk about it. We are going to
You know
talk.
what?
Like,
we're actually going to dive into that.
We're going to do it right now?
We're going to dive into it right now. We don't have that many comics.
True. Let's go ahead and we'll do that. Yeah.
Were you going to say something else, though, or?
Well, no, I was going to say we're going to talk about it, but in all honesty, there's nothing to really talk about in this comic. Like,
no.
So you set it up. You go ahead and set it up.
So yeah, for those of you that don't know, well, Batman and Robin are having a comic book because we've talked about this before. Batman and Robin, it's Batman versus Robin #1. We've been covering this story for a while. Robin's had his own series. We know that Batman and Robin have been at odds because of Deathstroke and all this other crap, and Talia's in there somewhere. And it's basically the same old story that we've seen a million times, with Robin just not seeing eye to eye with Batman, and which kind of is just boring in itself because, you know, we also saw Joshua Williamson have that really good issue where, you know, Nightwing went against Batman or he went against Nightwing and everybody in the whole Bat family, and he was like, look, we all went through this, now you got to go through it on your own. But you would think that he would do something different if he was going to go at it on his own, right? But now he's still just being the pain in the ass to his dad, like he's always is. But I also don't understand why he's trying to unlock the demon and why he was doing that.
Why? Yeah, so there is no setup here. And the issue that I have with this, what feels like new writing style of Mark Waid, because don't get me wrong, what we have been reading in World's Finest is very Mark Waid. It's very fun. There's a lot of action. It's very comic booky. Yeah. But I feel like since his return at DC, he doesn't want to explain anything. He just wants to be like, hey, this is going to happen. It's going to happen because I write it, not because of any other setup.
Yeah.
And it is really bad because when Batman Superman first started, we saw and heard that it was not going to be connected to the current DC Universe lineup whatsoever. It was just going to be its own pocket little thing, and we were just going to have fun reading it. I was okay with that. And then at the very end, and technically that book is still ongoing, but at the end of one issue, we saw that Damian Robin was at the prison of Niza for some reason. And then it said to be continued Batman versus Robin. And we said, oh, if that's the case, then this means that Batman Superman is officially in the current DC lineup and timeline. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That means that the freaking Batman Superman fusion dance with Green Lantern's ring is now canon.
Yeah, and somewhere on the world, there's just a pocket universe that can send you to another dimension timeline.
Yeah, and spoilers, I guess. The Batman Superman fusion is going to appear in Dark Crisis again, apparently.
Of course.
Yeah. So that didn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Now, moving on to Robin versus Batman, we open up the book with the return of Alfred.
Yeah, so there is like a mini little like, this is what's happened so far, like in a 2-page spread. Yeah. And it says like tragedy struck. And then there's this mysterious person walking up to Wayne Manor, and Bruce is just sulking, you know, looking at the parents.
For some reason, he is in the mansion.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this was such a good thing that I left this mansion. I'm so glad that I'm in Gotham now. Like,
yeah.
Again, force feeding us this idea of like, oh, Like, Batman doesn't need his money, he doesn't need the mansion, he doesn't need all the classic Batman things.
Yeah.
And it still kind of irked me a little bit. But like, I will admit, the panel where it's like almost pitch black and then like the lightning strikes, and then you see like what we assume is Alfred walking
Yeah.
towards the mansion. I really like I like the combination of those panels. I thought that transition was really cool.
Yeah.
But when he hears somebody knock at the door, he goes and opens it. There's lightning flashes. You see that it's Alfred. And Bruce is like, this is all a joke. This has to be Clayface. It has to be somebody. Like, he is going down the list of people that it could be.
Yeah.
And seemingly, Alfred is back because he is only remembering literally the last thing that happened before he died.
Yeah.
But Bruce is still kind of not really sure or whatever. And then throughout the comic, Alfred is like saying things. It's like, okay, maybe let's go down to the cave.
Mhm.
And then Damien's just there with two other characters who one character is from the Justice Society, with the genie and the pin. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And then I don't know the other kid. Literally looks like Jonathan Kent when he was younger, with glasses.
Yeah.
But as soon as I heard or I read the dialogue from Damien,
Mhm.
I was like, I hate this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just
Uh,
destroys like, there is this thing that so many writers love to go back to when it comes to Damien. They're like, oh, well, when he was introducing Grant Morrison's run, he was a dick. So in my run, he's going to be a dick. And then
yeah.
everybody will learn to love him again. Like, no, he's already been through so much character development. And this is the problem that me and you have constantly talked about in comics, is that writers seemingly say, oh, well, I'm going to assume you've never read anything about this character, so I'm going to show him as though I'm reintroducing the character.
Yeah.
And they give up all of that character development. It's so stupid.
Yeah. And it can, cause like, I'm not gonna lie to you, there is shit that I would totally erase if I became a writer because I just think it's bad. But it's not necessarily in character development, right? Like, if I was to write Alfred coming back, it would not be anything like this. Is because he's just a seemingly back for whatever Damien did. He's back because of that.
But here's the problem. I don't think it's going to be explained. I genuinely don't.
Yeah, it's probably just gonna be magic, right? Magic
Yeah.
fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could probably say that like Damien's under a spell or whatever from
Yeah.
Nisa. But I don't know. It's just something about this feels way too forced just to have another Batman versus comic. Like, honestly.
Oh, for sure. It feels extremely forced. I just don't like that they just brought Alfred back like this. Like, at least even when Williamson was doing it, there was a possibility on why he would be brought back because of the Lazarus water.
Because of the Lazarus water, then you had the emotional moment with Damien at the
Yeah.
grave showing why he can't do it. Like, there
Yeah.
are steps that I feel like need to be made if this is going to be something that happens in the future of the DC universe. I genuinely think that it should be an arc. There should be good story elements with all of the Bat family, and then you bring him back. You
I
now currently have a lot of choices on how to do it. You can choose the Lazarus water. You can go to the pit in the middle of the freaking desert and
Yeah.
sacrifice something. Like, you have so many options that will have more of an impact when Alfred comes back rather than just like, cool, he's back.
Yeah, I want to say I've said what they could have done to bring back Alfred on the podcast, but I'm not going to repeat it because if I didn't say it on the podcast, then it's something I'd keep for myself. So, but
I know that we've talked about it several times.
yes, I just don't remember if we've talked about it on the podcast, but there's such a better way to do it, and you could actually redeem some other people in the process of it.
Yeah.
And I just I don't know. I thought this was stupid. Like I said this in the Discord. Once I read this, I was all like, I just read this book. I was like, and it pissed me off. That's all I
It
said in
was
there.
again a month in advance, and you
Yeah,
were like,
yeah,
"Clay, did you read it?" I was like, "No, I haven't." I didn't actually get to read it until about, I want to say, like 3 or 4 days ago.
yeah.
Um, and I even wanted to like be like, "That was the stupidest freaking comic." I think I did say like that is the dumbest comic I have read like since. Oh shit! What did I say? What did I say?
I have no
Uh,
idea.
it must have been
It,
in
it,
the comic
it was
spoilers
in
chat.
Discord, but yeah, it was just dumb, man. It was like a terrible way to bring back Alfred. And again, you don't do this in non-main Batman titles.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of people that are not going to buy this book and not
Yeah.
going to read this book because it's not the main Batman title.
And not only that, again, because DC always assumes that every Batman fan is going to buy every Batman book, which they
Yeah.
should not. I think that is a bad way to go.
Yeah.
But what you need to do is, again, it's going to be more impactful in Detective, in Batman. Hell, they even teased us in possibly doing it with Robin. With everything that's been going on in Nightwing, I wouldn't be surprised if they attempted to do it in there either. But you have to
Mhm.
involve the Bat family.
Yeah.
This it it just feels very cheap. It There is not going to be anything that I'm going to remember about this book. And I found
No.
what my comment was. It may have been a little over dramatic, but I said that was the dumbest Batman book next to All-Star Batman and Batman the Imposter.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. There is this, oh my god. My voice. There was one moment where that's been happening a lot, especially on my streams and stuff too. But there was one thing where they go to the mansion, like the kitchen, and Batman goes through the doors or whatever, and he's like Zatanna, and it's like Zatanna hanging from a noose, like with her neck cracked.
So
That looks really awesome.
so they actually went into the House of Mystery.
Okay.
This is another thing that I didn't really like, because right now Zatanna is dead. Like, she's
Hmm.
already dead.
Yeah.
So like they brought her back just to basically like kill her but not kill her again. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Again, Wade is wanting to do what he wants to do without any regard to what is going on in the current Batman books or even in the DC universe. If anybody is a fan of Marvel, you would understand this in the sense of Mark Waid is basically Jason Aaron. Jason
Hmm.
Aaron is the one doing the Avengers comics right now, and he was doing Thor the longest time. I think he had the longest run of Thor consecutively. But his Avengers run makes zero sense because it doesn't connect with anything else that's going on with any other character. And this is how I feel with Mark Waid now. He's just like, oh, I want this character in my book because I'm Mark Waid. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't like it when writers do that.
Yeah, it's not a great book. I mean, I was having fun with Batman and Superman or World's Finest or whatever. I think that's cool,
Yeah.
but I don't like that it's breaking into continuity now, and it is yeah, it's not good. I don't like that they gave Wade they let him bring back Alfred. Like
Yeah.
I would have like it's been so long. I would have asked King, "Do you have a mini series to bring back Alfred?"
Yeah.
Like, why don't you allow ask the person that killed the person, be like, you have an idea to bring him back? Because remember, King has went on record saying, like, oh yeah, I was gonna bring him back like pretty quickly, but they said I could leave him dead, and so I left him dead. So I thought that was cool. Um, but yeah, I don't know. This was not great. So
And
this
then the
was
implication at the very last page was that Nisa has destroyed and or killed all of the JSA, which I
yeah.
think is stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. This was funny. This Nisa character was who I thought was in the Black Adam trailer.
Oh
So
yeah, no, his name, I looked it up. The one in the Black Adam trailer, his name is Sabak.
yeah.
I have no
So
idea. Like I don't I've never read any of his stories in DC, so I
yeah,
don't know.
that was the only thing I didn't like about the trailer was that they showed the villain. Like you don't need to do that every time. Like you could have left me thinking that Black Adam was the villain the whole time. So
I genuinely think that this is gonna be in the same limelight of like Godzilla versus Kong, where it's gonna be the JSA versus Black Adam for like majority of the movie,
yeah.
and then the last 25 minutes they're gonna face off this Sabak character.
Yeah, for sure. That's just how it's gonna be. Predictable. But other than that, the only other book we have to cover is The Flash, the Fastest Man Alive. Now, the only reason why we're covering this is because it literally says on the cover, official movie tie-in comic. Now, we don't need to review the whole book because the book is a lot of The Flash, kind of like learning to be a superhero still. And there's this moment in there where he fights this big metal monster guy. And like I don't even care about getting the names right or whatever, but he's just like he's fighting this big metal monster guy and he knows he can't beat him. Like this guy actually like hurts him a little bit. And so he runs to Batman in Gotham and he's like, "Hey, can you teach me how to fight because like all I'm doing is kind of just pushing people right now. Like I'm not really fighting."
They redid
And
the joke from Justice League.
yeah. So they do that, and Batman's like, okay. He was like, I'm not gonna go easy on you or whatever. Like, of course, Batman would. And he was like, you can't use your speed to like, you can't rely on your speed. Like, you need to actually, try to fight or whatever. So Batman like hits him a couple times, and Barry gets mad and tries to punch Batman at like super speed and learns out how to do like the Sonic Punch or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't do that where I'm at. It's gonna hurt people. You know what I mean? Like I won't use that. And he was like, you gotta learn how to use that because that's how you're gonna fight. Like you can destroy somebody with that. And he was like, no, it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. And so, this guy starts terrorizing Central City, or they call it Central City right now? Or is it
Yeah.
National?
No,
What is it?
it's
The other one?
Central City. Yeah.
Okay. So like starts terrorizing Central City and we see like Flash just goes over there and he tries to do what he can do, but Bruce ends up showing up there and he's like, "You're not going to win this way. Like you need to use the punch." And he was like, "Oh, I'm too scared or whatever." And he's like, "Maybe you need something new or whatever." And we find out there was this little part in the comic where Alfred was working on technology for Bruce Wayne, aka Batman's suit so
Yes.
he could use the suit some way in a quicker manner. So I found that kind of interesting that the flash ring technology actually comes from Batman, which I thought was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I think it's really cool to add this into what could be the DCEU canon,
Yeah.
but from what a lot of people have mentioned, because we've technically had DCEU tie-ins with there was a prequel comic for Man of Steel, had no
Mhm.
implication to the actual universe or the movie Man of Steel. And a lot of people feel the same way with this. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
it might be a fun comic to read, but it probably doesn't have anything to do with the actual movie.
Yeah.
Um, but if we actually, because we did see in this comic, Batman use his bat cycle a whole lot.
Yeah.
And Ben Affleck's Batman, a lot of his scenes that we saw as the general public, he filmed on his bat cycle.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the same scenes.
And I think he has a similar kind of suit too, if I'm not mistaken. Cause the stuff I've seen from the new like suit in the Flash that the Batman's wearing has like more armor on the shoulders and stuff.
Yeah.
Looks a little different. So, yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. So the Batman essentially gives the Flash his new suit, which I think we were all predicting anyways because of the
Yeah.
way they set up Barry before, like he was stealing stuff.
I thought it was going to be Keaton, though, not Batfleck. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of rumors going on with everything they're doing nowadays with these possible reshoots and blah 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 blah. So we don't know what's happening anymore. But either way, I think this is still kind of cool that he got his suit from Batman. Now, the thing I did really enjoy about this at the end was Flash remained the Flash. And he was like, I'm not the kind of guy to like beat down on somebody and not help them out and he ends up helping out this steel monster guy because the only reason why this guy was doing criminal stuff was to save his father.
yeah.
And so he talks to Bruce and he's like, "Hey, is there anything you can do for this guy? Because like he's doing crime for to help his dad." And so Bruce, of course, anonymously pays for all the bills. And Flash goes and talks to that guy in prison. And he's like, "Hey," I was like, "your dad's taken care of. I have, some friends or whatever." And he's like, "Why would you do that for me?" He's like, "Because I know it. I know how it is to like be accused of stuff or be in a bad spot. Like,
Yeah.
I get that." And he helps him out. And he's all like, "Hopefully, this will change. Like, this will change for you, or you'll be better after this." And he's all like, "I hope too, Flash," or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well,
Kind
he
of like
says
contemplate.
he says, "Don't bet on it, but thank you,
Yeah,
Flash." Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. It remains the Flash being the Flash. It shows Batman doing something nice, and it shows Batman being a leader like he should be. And so I thought this was a cool little tie-in comic. It would be cool if they actually showed this monster, even if it was a flashback in the movie, to just make it like real. Like, oh yeah, that tie-in comic.
I
Because you
think that
could
would
give
be
this
pretty cool.
tie-in comic out at the movie theater.
Yeah.
We got that shitty super. It's worth a lot now. When we went to go see the Batman, we got the freaking what was it? Long
Oh,
Halloween
shit.
book.
Yeah, 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 it was the Long
Yeah.
Halloween reprint,
PSA
yeah.
10, man. I got that solidified like $100 million in the future. Um, but yeah, I think they could just give this out. Now, granted, this is only one of three. Apparently, there's three more or two more books, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. So we'll be seeing more of this Flash, and I think it's a good way to kind of get people interested. Although, this movie has a lot of controversy around it, so we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, that's all the comics we got. I think we should dive into questions, and then we'll dive into our main topics for the day. So
Alright.
we speaking of that, we might as well just start with King. I don't know if we have anything on YouTube, but King does say, "Do you think that the very controversial Flash movie would have fans to want a Ben Affleck solo project? And would you want this to happen?" So essentially, do you think the Flash movie would drum up interest to have people want a Ben Affleck solo project?
I think that there's already a lot of buzz of people wanting a Ben Affleck solo project. There always has been ever since the leak of what that script would be.
Yeah.
Um I genuinely think if there is any indication that Ben is Batman in the future, people are going to want it.
Yeah, I just don't think you don't make it you don't make him part of the future without giving him at least one film. And I know they're because the thing is too, man, I think they can make a Ben Affleck movie faster than Reeves's second Batman movie is going to come out. I don't think we get Batman like 2 or the Batman 2 until like 2026. Like I feel like they're going to take a long time on that movie. Reeves is going to take all of this year and half of next year to write it.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
assuming.
Yeah.
And so probably won't go into production until late 2023, early 2024. Gonna take like 4 to 6 months to film.
I see there be well, I don't know. I think WB would want that time slot again because they almost hit a billion.
Hmm.
Uh so they would either want early spring or summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
And so but I also think they would want a 2024 release. So
I just don't think Reeves works that fast, you know? Because there was a
how
lot
lo-
of rumors of revisions.
how long did it take? So we got the actual casting of Pattinson 2019.
Maybe.
We were working together, I think 2019.
But he
And
was already
then
writing by then.
true, true. And
So
he had already said that the script wasn't even like thought of yet.
yeah.
At this point. I guess so.
I think he's gonna take a while. I could see 2025 at the earliest. I don't think we get it in 2023 or 2024. No way. Way too early.
Yeah.
So, but you could film a Ben Affleck Batman movie like right now. You know what I mean? Like they probably have that script. They could tweak it a little bit and just be like, "Let's go. You ready to go? Let's do this." Because I'm sure his stuntmans are always in shape. Like they probably have to be.
Yeah.
So probably in shape. And he's like, "I'm ready to go, bro. Let's go. I'll be in the bat suit 80% of the time. You just show up for the pretty shots." I'm like, "We're good." And you just have him in the bat suit fighting. Because, dude, honestly, it's not that hard to make a fucking Batman movie. Everybody's over here. It's like, oh, it's got to be a blockbuster. It's got to win Oscars. We don't fucking want that, bro. I don't care about Batman winning Oscars. I care about Batman being Batman and being a
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of like it's so dumb to me when I hear people being like, and as much as I love it because DC does have more Oscars than Marvel, I'm just out here saying like I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh well, this movie has an Oscar. Who cares? There's literally been so many articles right now that are talking about how shitty the Emmys are because James Corden's stupid carpool karaoke got a Emmy. They're like, how? That thing hasn't been relevant in years. And so
Did it
like
really?
yeah, apparently I got an Emmy. Like the title of it was like James Corbin wins Emmy, shows how award shows are irrelevant or like have no relevance or some bullshit like that. So I was like, damn. But apparently some like I think Zendaya made history for being the first black woman to ever win like drama actress twice, which is crazy to me to think that that's never happened before.
Yeah.
It's crazy and not crazy, to be honest. But I would have thought like Viola Davis or somebody would have killed it like big time. Then again, she's probably more Oscars than Emmys. I think Emmys are more TV shows, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think she's. I think she was only in that one TV show, which was How to Catch a Murderer or How to Kill Like a
Uh,
Murderer or some shit.
yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. Which is what blew her up. Anyways, she's now the face of the DCEU now. So no matter what The Rock thinks, she's carried every project. But anyway, so there's that first thing. Do we have anything on YouTube or on Twitter? I know you said you
We
mentioned.
do have one from Raphael. He says, for Juice, what do you think is the most difficult in terms of creating content to get an audience?
Oh wow. Um, I fucking hate the word niche. I am literally building a whole new channel off of fuck the niche because it's just like I'm so tired of everybody trying to put something in a box and you have to fucking work from it, right? Um, but the current mindset in building an audience is finding something people like and making content around that. So if you have a skill that you can teach people, make content for that. That way people will watch it and be like, oh, I want to learn this. Like Clay does podcasting. So if Clay wanted to make videos on podcasting, he could teach people how to podcast and people can go to his thing and they'll learn from Clay. The best thing he could do is you make everything as simple as possible if you're teaching something. And the
Yeah.
one thing I will tell you, if you're trying to go into educational content and it's definitely something you're trying to teach, you need to teach the simplest shit. Because every
Yes.
time people always skip a step because they assume people already know that step. And that's not a majority of the people that are watching. They know nothing. You need to think that you are teaching a toddler to make this project or whatever. And people forget that a lot. And that's why so many educational things that I've watched are trash because they skip a step.
Yep.
If you're talking about entertainment, like when I was doing the comic stuff, you need to know what you're talking about. That is how people will appreciate you. Now, granted, I don't want to say anomaly, but I was different from every other comic book person out there because I would tell you something fucking sucked. And people would like that. And now, granted, you will get some of the negative people on your. They're like, yeah, I like Juice because he says shit sucks because, yeah, it fucking sucks. And like, you start getting that part of the audience, you're like, bro, chill. I do like some parts of it, but I'm not like negative to everything. But negative
Exactly. Yeah.
attention is something people love. So you can be controversial if you want to do that because there are people that will follow you. But do you really want that to be your legacy? I don't know if you want that. But I would say no matter what you're into, whether it be sports, comics, anything, you need to do a lot of it. You need to be consistent and you need to know what you're talking about. But I think the best way to grow is if you can be one of the people that offers different opinions but says both sides of like I could see why people think this, I could see why people think this, but the facts are this. I think you get a lot more viewers and you get a lot more engagement because you'll have people fighting on both sides,
Yeah.
but they'll keep coming back to you because you're not biased. And I think since we live in such a biased world right now, everybody's starting to hate creators that just like everything, that just hate everything. They're like, dude, it's not all bad. Like, even if I think She-Hulk looks shitty, but I'm pretty sure if I sat down and watched it, I could find something that I like about it. You know what I mean?
Tatiana Maslany. Sorry, just gonna
So
say it. She
yeah. So that's just kind of how it goes. And that's something I learned because like I was very positive on a lot of the DC shows because I did like them back in the day.
yeah.
And but I saw them going downhill and I called that out and people didn't like that. But I've always said like, dude, you're going to get 100% authentic juice. Like it's what's going to happen, all right? This is fucking farm fresh shit. It's not made in a lab. So I'm always going to be real. This podcast will always be real. Clay will be always be able to say his opinion. I'm always going to be able to say my opinion, and we're not going to sugarcoat shit. So you have to decide what you want to be. We're not family friendly. This podcast is not family friendly. So you also have to decide what you want to be. Like, do you want to get as much exposure as possible? If that's the case, then you need to cut out the swearing and be more family friendly because nothing's ever going to be more popular than family friendly content. So
Yeah.
there's a lot like this. I could talk about this on a whole nother podcast because there's so much that goes into trying
And
to
I
build an
I
audience.
just want to call out the hating of niche on a niche podcast.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, for sure,
we are a podcast all
100%.
about Batman, and you said you don't like niche stuff.
Yeah,
I just wanted
yeah.
to call that out. I think that's hilarious.
This is the only thing that survived from my comic days, though. Like to
Yeah,
be honest, because and a lot of people are like, "Why don't you do YouTube stuff anymore?" And it's like because I talk about it on my podcast for 2 hours. Like, why would I make videos about it? It's like y'all can listen to the podcast. Granted, I will say since we started doing the YouTube stuff that has a visual aspect, our views have gone up like double, almost triple, which is
that's
crazy.
awesome.
So, yeah, that's the best way to build an audience. To be honest, I think you have to be authentic and you have to know what you're talking about. That's the best thing you can do. So, yeah.
And he says, for me, more of a joke. He says, Clay, I don't know if you stopped or are still doing the Game of Thrones reviews, but would you do it for each chapter of Law and Order? I will say I have not stopped Game of Thrones. I'm going to be watching episode 8 this weekend of season 1, and I would not do it for Law and Order. The only reason why is because every chapter of Law and Order, whether it be SVU or whatever, it's all the fucking same. Like
Yeah.
it's the exact same formula. What's his name? Wolf, or I can't even remember the guy who created that whole franchise. Um, he saw one thing that did great, and he's like, I'm gonna do it again and again and again
Yeah.
and again under the exact same formula. So
Yeah.
no, I
It
would not watch all of Law and Order.
my family loves Law and Order. They love it.
Don't get me
Um,
wrong, I think that the like original stuff was really, really great.
mhm.
But when it started to like spread out, almost like how I think nowadays it's like the Chicago shows, it's like
Yeah.
Chicago MD, Chicago Firehouse or whatever it's called, and it's like
Yeah.
Chicago PD. Like that's at least like different stories in the sense of like those three different employments, those three
Yeah.
different jobs or whatever, and I can see there being different stories in those. But
Yeah.
like with Law and Order, it's literally just all detectives doing the
Yeah.
same kinds of things.
I don't my the one I see my fam watching the most is SVU, which is like the one I would probably want to stay away from the most just because like I have unfortunately had friends that have been SA'd before,
Yeah.
and the cops don't do shit, man. They don't fucking do a damn thing. And that show glorifies them actually like, oh yeah, we're going and we're talking to suspects. No, you fucking aren't. You're not fucking doing shit. The moment you hear that alcohol's involved, oh, sorry, we can't do anything because we can't prove that. And I'm like, man, fuck yourselves. So SVU does annoy me, but I know that woman's face. Like I could probably draw that woman's face because I've seen her so much. Um, and like, yeah, so it's pretty crazy, but those shows are popular, man. And it's also I always laugh when people are like, "Yeah, you shouldn't include like sexual assault or stuff shouldn't be in shows." I'm like, "Pff, go tell that to the SVU people because it
Yeah.
sells." You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, it's so weird that that's people's escapism. You know what I mean? SVU is my escapism from the world. You watch a show about the
Fuck.
world, like you know what I mean? So crazy
Oh
shit,
man.
but that's cool. What
One
else do we
last
got?
question from, well, I think there's a few more, but question from Twitter that was from last week that we didn't get to answer because we had already passed up the question section. From my friend Tim, he asks, which do you prefer, long ear Batman or short ear Batman?
I prefer medium ear Batman. Cause I don't like the super long, like I think it's McFarlane that does the super
Yeah,
longs. I don't like that. Like when they try to make him vampire Batman, I don't
yeah.
like those. Um, and I don't mind the short ears because they look really good on Affleck's suit, but I like the medium ears the most. So like in between both.
Yeah,
I don't like long ear.
I do like the medium. I think the long can be unfortunately too what's the phrasing? Caricature why like
Yeah,
what do
caricature.
yeah, it could be too caricature.
Yeah,
And uh McFarlane does it. I know that oh unfortunately he just passed away. Seeley, Tim Seeley
yeah.
did it also. Um
His looks good though because of the whole aesthetic.
I
You
think it
know?
did blend in very well with everything
Yeah,
else. But I also don't like, for me personally, Adam West's Batman ears. I don't like those. I like a good medium size ear.
yeah.
That's
I
just
don't Adam West looks kind of floppy, right? Like the way his were made, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I don't mind his cowl, the way it's made. I kind of
yeah,
like his cowl, but it's because of the time is
yeah.
why I like it. It wouldn't be the first cowl. The one I will tell you that I don't like, and it is going to be the staple of the new animated series, is that cowl where the eels is like they widen out more like
Oh yeah,
horns.
like
I don't
40s.
like that cowl, and they're long, so
Yeah.
that kind of sucks. Like I'm really hoping that series is going to be really good, and I just ignore the cowl you know, because I just don't like the way it looks.
I'll be honest, it doesn't happen very often, but whenever there's like a new like Elseworld story and you see like the short Batman ears that kind of go back instead of up, I kind of
Mhm.
like those.
Yeah, so we'll see. I want to see when this animated series drops what their Joker is going to look like cuz that can be make or break.
I honestly think that the Joker won't be in season 1. I have a feeling
I
that he
hope
won't.
not. I hope not. That would be but come on. Let's be real. Has DC
It's
ever allowed that?
I know.
Has
As soon
DC
as I
ever
like started to actually say it, I was like, "This is bullshit.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say it."
Yeah. So going from there, we have Ethan. He always starts off with I don't know if this question's been asked before. If all of Marvel characters were comic book characters in the DC universe, which Marvel character do you think Batman would be a fan or look up to? Maybe even young Bruce Wayne. So if the Marvel universe was only characters as comic book characters in the DC universe, who do you think Bruce Wayne would look up to?
I don't know if he would necessarily look up to him. But if you guys have not had the chance to read Batman Spider-Man, I think that Spider-Man would be a character that he would look at as an equal.
Hmm.
Just because yeah, he may be Spider-Man may be younger than him, but his ideals whenever it comes to the uh the brutality of his victims, whether they be villains or just like regular criminals or whatever,
Yeah.
they're very similar.
Yeah.
um Spider-Man is really the only hero that ever talks about crossing that line,
Hmm.
more often than not. uh and then everybody else, I do feel like he would have kind of this like bravado or ego of like you're not good enough type thing. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely think there would be a rivalry between Bruce and Tony Stark. And then
Well, but these are comic book characters though. So they're not real in a sense to him. So he wouldn't be like, I fucking hate Tony Stark. It would be he's reading, like as enjoyment, like, oh, I
no, no,
don't
no,
like Tony.
he's saying if they were all in the same universe.
No, in all of the Marvel characters, if all the Marvel characters were comic book characters in the DC universe.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I
So
didn't.
they're not real. They're
Okay, okay.
fictional in that, well,
If
they're
that
fictional
was the
obviously.
case, if he like kind of like how Bruce Wayne liked Zorro,
Or Grey
kind of,
Ghost.
or Grey Ghost. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. If that's the case, I think I still think he would look up to Spider-Man, and then I could see him relating to Daredevil. In the
I
sense
could see
of like
yeah,
in the sense of like Daredevil has his like one corner of New York and
yeah,
he likes to protect it. Batman does the same thing with Gotham, with the rest of the world. He's like, this is my thing. Nobody else can touch it. I have to take care of it. And that's kind of how
yeah.
Daredevil is.
Um, uh, Off tangent, I think I was watching a wrestling podcast, or I was watching somebody else talk about it, and I love when other YouTubers talk about Batman and they're getting it wrong, because I'm just like, nope, you're fucking wrong. Why are you spreading lies? But I do think this is partially true. But they were saying that they were like, oh yeah, I can't believe that Gotham is actually Chicago and not New York. And I'm like, I don't think that's right. Gotham has always been New York, but I think the movies had made it more Chicago. And I think the only reason why people say Chicago is because sometimes in Gotham you have the monorail, and I don't think New York has a monorail. If I'm mistaken, I could be wrong. Um, but or maybe it does. I know that they have subways. I don't know if they have monorails, but I think Chicago has a monorail, and that's been shown in the movies before. And I think that's why people are like, oh, it's more Chicago. And I'm like, no, Gotham City has always been based off of New York, but Gotham City is also its own city in DC. New
Yes.
York exists in DC, and so does Metropolis. So it's just like, it's just kind of the way it is.
Throughout what I believe when I have seen them throughout the 80s and 90s, I think they kind of did away with it like in the 2000s because they're just like we can't keep up with an actual map of the DC
Yeah.
universe world. Um from what I remember, Gotham and Metropolis were actually off of the East Coast near New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes they would switch Gotham and Metropolis with what would be a Chicago. So they would just flip it like every once in a
Yeah.
while. And
Yeah.
I'll admit, it like you could honestly make a DC universe map of the United States because that's where most of our DC heroes are. And you just say, "Hey, this is canon. This is
Yeah.
solidified. Nothing can change now." But they just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to. So yeah, I don't think the Chicago thing is factual, but I could say that it's intertwined between an amalgamation of both cities,
Yeah.
is what I would say. But yeah, anyways, going back to who I think he would relate to Daredevil, but I think he would look at Tony Stark for his brilliance in design and stuff and how he creates all his own things. I think
Yeah.
he'd really look up to Tony Stark for that, not his attitude. But I could see him basing his playboy persona off Tony Stark,
I could see that.
you
Like
know?
having a little bit of an amalgam of like all these different characters and be like, this is who Batman is. I could
Yeah.
totally see that.
So,
I will tell you this. Characters that I don't think he would look up to. Captain America.
yeah, probably not.
I just think like with how Civil War ended up, he would be on the side of Captain America for that. But I
Yeah.
don't think with how Captain America's ideals are usually, I don't think he would look up. I think he would kind of at the same time of like being friendly to Superman and being friends with Superman. I do think Batman usually looks at Clark as like, yeah, this is not how you should be superheroing,
Yeah.
but you
I
do
would
it
agree
your
with
own way.
that. Yeah. Yeah, Batman has never followed the rules, so he would definitely go against them if it, for the cause, as he
Yeah.
would say. But yeah, so there's that. And I think the last thing we got is from Charlie. Favorite Robin suit? I like the hood on Damien's.
So I think as far as Robin's suit, I would probably have to go with Tim Drake's suit after Infinite Crisis, which is his red and black suit.
With the hood though, where he's wearing a mask, where he looks bald. That one?
No, because that's more of like the Red Robin, like his first appearance of
Yeah.
Red Robin. It's
Okay.
right before that. So he dons like this weird, like almost midnighter type mask as
Yeah.
Red Robin, but right before that, he has the all red like torso with
Mhm.
the long black gloves, and the legs are all black, and he has the
Yeah.
yellow R without the circle. I think
Hmm.
that is quite possibly my favorite Robin suit, because I don't remember, like, there's the classic Dick Grayson, which is always fun,
Yeah.
but I don't think anybody else I could say is like a favorite of mine, honestly.
Yeah. Um, I don't know how they've never changed his name. Like, why would you go Red Robin instead of like? I mean, I guess because they wanted to keep it in the Robin family, but I always thought he should go to Cardinal. Ben just tried to make a Drake out of it just because his last fucking name.
So
Like,
fucking
but
stupid.
Cardinal is like right there, and I think Cardinal has like some symbolic meaning behind it too that would probably fit
Well,
very
there
well.
was I think I sent it to you a long time ago. There was this TikTok rant of like how he should be called Red Wing instead
Hmm.
of Red Robin.
I think Red Wing has some like connotations that go back to like military stuff though
Yeah.
that I think probably you don't want. So I could be wrong about that. Or it could be good. I don't really know. Well, actually, no. I think it has something to
For
do
Batman and
with
his soldiers, I think it would be the
yeah.
best name
The Darcy's
ever.
like, yeah, we're gonna call him Red Wing from now on. Yeah. I mean, Cardinal just seems so well if you're trying to keep it in the bird family. You know what I mean? Anyways, so there is that. My favorite suit. I kind of like the redesign of Dick Grayson in World's Finest. That suit where it's the green pants. I
Yeah.
like that suit. You know, I've never liked the underwear green Robin.
Yeah,
The
like
first one,
the basically the
too
boy
Peter
shorts.
Pan. Yeah, yeah, I've never liked that. You know, and so I like the long pants Robin of Dick Grayson. So, and then
Now
I also do like Damien's.
I know that Jason had a different Robin suit, but I'm trying
Yeah,
to
his was covered in
remember.
blood.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
shit.
remember what his would look like.
Because I know there was a lot of controversy in the Under the Red Hood movie.
Mhm.
When Joker is killing Jason, that suit is Tim Drake's suit. It's not traditionally Jason's suit that he is in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
But then they show him in the traditional like short shorts when it's like the flashback of him saying, "This is the greatest day ever," or whatever at the very end of the movie. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think that I'm still gonna go with Tim Drake. You could say Stephanie Brown, but
Hers was kind of cool. Yeah,
yeah, I
like for
liked
2 days or
I just
whatever.
liked her. I just liked the hairstyle that she had. It's like all the poofy yellow hair or whatever, the
Yeah.
blonde hair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny the way like, dude, that Batgirl's book has been getting a lot of shit on Twitter. People are so mad at it. I I just don't feel like apparently they're writing them like as like big time teenagers. I feel like they're like older teenagers now though.
There has been a lot of controversy over the de-aging of those two, because
Yeah.
they made the mistake of actually saying their ages in like the
Yeah, you don't do
first
that.
two issues.
Yeah.
And you're like, how is that even freaking possible? Because of
Yeah.
everything that has gone on in this universe so far.
What are they treating them as? Like 15-year-olds?
They're treating them as anywhere between like I think 13 to 16.
They cannot be 13. There's no way. After all the shit they've been through, and especially the way they've been drawing them, they
Yeah.
look nothing like 13. So, because like I will say, like, yeah, they just don't look 13. That's just weird. Um, yeah, they this is why you don't put numbers in books, ladies and gentlemen. Because you're gonna have those fans be like, that doesn't make sense. So just try to keep dates out of it and all that kind of stuff if you can. Unless you're doing a period piece, that's the only time you can use dates. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna write a
Yeah.
book about World War II. It's like, okay, well then you got dates. Those are set dates. You can't change it unless you're
Mhm.
saying the war kept going on, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
only time you can do that. But anyways, let's move on to the main topics of the podcast. We already covered comics. Let's dive into the Batgirl fake teaser trailer. Did you watch
Okay.
this?
So I did, but it wasn't until I got your notification on your
Hmm.
reaction channel
Yeah,
that said Batgirl teaser reaction, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? This
yeah,
is bullshit." And I was like, "Wait, it's probably a troll. Juice, you're not getting me. I'm not going to watch it." So I
yeah,
didn't. And then I saw a TikTok of this dude saying, "The teaser has been released." And like he watched it, and then at the very end when the guy is like, "Yeah, this is my we're the Warner Bros." And I was
yeah,
like, "Oh, you son of a bitch." It
yeah,
fucking got me. Um, I thought this was hilarious.
yeah. It was well
This
done.
was awesome. I think that it was very much well done. I think the actress that was basically the Leslie Grace stand-in looked
Hmm.
very, very similar. Um, I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, they opened the trailer with like the three best shots in the whole trailer, and it looked real. And I was just like, oh fuck. I was like, is this leaked footage? I was like, because this looks really good. And then as you go through the trailer, you're like, oh, okay. Like
Yeah,
it's like fan made and like okay, because they like steal like clips from other like movies and put it in there and stuff like that. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, so I reacted to this on my reaction channel. If anybody want to go watch that, but yeah, for the most part, that's just if there is a fake teaser trailer out there, if you guys want to go check that out.
I just
But
thought that it was great, and they used the meme that everybody loves to do. Like, what is the greatest villain of all of DC Comics? Warner
yeah,
Brothers.
yeah,
And it was well done. I'll probably watch your reaction channel now that you
it's
didn't
not a
play
fake.
me, so
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Moving on, we have a lot of Joker news apparently. So what is? I've seen a lot of people have been enjoying the cast, but I don't keep up with this just because I don't care until the movie comes out. So
yeah, so we have three new actors joining Joker 2. Brendan Gleeson, you may know him from Cold Mountain, from Calvary. Um, what are some other movies that he's been in? Edge of Tomorrow. Gosh, I'm sure. Oh, no, wait, no, that's not what I thought it was. He played Mad Eye Moody in the Harry Potter series. So the dude with like the
oh, that
crazy
weird
eye.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that is him. Catherine Kinner has joined the cast of Joker 2. Uh, Best known from Get Out, 40-Year-Old Virgin, and uh, Step Brothers. She
Mm,
plays Will Ferrell's mom
mm-hmm,
in Step Brothers. I think she's a great actress. Um, her being in this movie does intrigue me a little bit because she is somebody who can do something serious as well as comedy. So, kind of putting that in the mix with Joker, I think will be kind of fun. And the last actor who has been casted this week was Jacob Laughlin. I do not know who this is. Apparently, he made his uh like big movie debut in the movie Mud with Matthew McConaughey,
mm-hmm.
and he has also been in Maze Runner, which I think he has been in both Maze Runner movies. Uh, but yeah, not a whole lot of stuff on his plates, just like random like self credits and a handful of small TV stuff. So
Crazy. I was on Twitter and somebody was like, Juice, they did a new Apex trailer. And I was like, huh? I was like, I didn't get a notification for that. So I got to react to that after that. But okay, so bunch of casting news again. That's not something I really care about when it comes to movies. I just wait until the trailer to come out. But I do. There's more news about what the movie, the perspective of the movie is going to be, or something like that.
yes, so I have it up right here. It says that the movie will be told in the perspective of Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. So I'm really interested in this because in the original Joker movie, this was Arthur Fleck's movie.
Yeah.
And again, I said when last time we spoke about Joker was why would you deter at all from what already made you $1 billion? And I
Mhm.
understand Lady Gaga has been really hot in Hollywood. She's been I I I honestly don't know if she's won an Oscar yet. I think she
She
might
won an
have.
Oscar for the music.
That's right. She only won for the music, but not the actual
Yeah.
performance.
She got nominated though.
So it says here, uh, according to a rumor, the hot scoop or shot of poop is the uh, I guess weekly segment from Weekly Planet podcast. The sequel of Todd Phillips' 2019 film titled Joker 2 will be told by Harley Quinn's perspective. Uh, and it says the quote is apparently Joker 2 isn't so much about a Joker movie than it is a Harley Quinn movie.
Mhm.
It's from her perspective, and the reason it's a musical is because that's how she perceives her relationship with Joker.
Where is this source coming from?
This is from a podcast. So
But who's reporting that this is from a podcast?
this is from the Direct. The Direct is pretty good on their sources.
Mhm.
James Clement. I don't know. I guess he is the host of this Weekly Planet podcast.
Mhm.
So the other host asks, "Oh, like a romantic musical?" And Clement says, "Exactly."
I mean, I could see it, but getting news from podcasts that I've never fucking heard of before, I'm gonna hold my breath on.
Yeah, I'm taking it as a grain of salt. Again, as I said before, why would you deter so much from what already made you $1 billion? Not saying that Lady Gaga can't get you that again,
Mhm.
but I think it would be a bit of a stretch from what you had in the first movie, you know?
Well, I I agree, but I also don't agree because I already told you that I think some people are smart enough to know that you're never gonna top the first movie. So going in a very different direction can make it feel really fresh, right? But also, if they're
True.
going to be stuck in an asylum the whole time, having a story be told through somebody else's eyes about this mysterious Joker character that got brought into the asylum, I think is a nice fresh pace because he could still be in 90% of the movie. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like a girl that's just fantasizing about a boy or fantasizing about a lover, right? And it's just like, oh yeah, cool, you know? And so I could see it working, but I'll hold my breath until I see the actual trailer, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll go from there. Before we jump on to the next topics, I want to talk about something that had Twitter in a little bit of a tiff, pun intended. There was a movie that was aired at the TIFF, I guess, festival. I don't know if it's TIFF Cinema Festival or what it's called exactly, but it is a festival in America, I believe, that shows a bunch of movies. And it is called The People's Joker. And the reason why it's getting a lot of news right now is because it was pulled from TIFF for rights issues. Now, the main thing about this thing, it is titled A Queer Coming of Age Story that is a DC parody. And so I've seen the trailer. I had Clay watch the trailer before we jumped on to the podcast. I said it looks like a YouTube short film or like a YouTube film because a lot of it is green screened. But I also said I would watch this if it was on YouTube because it does look kind of trippy and weird and it deals with DC characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What was your original viewing on it? Like when you saw it?
So when looking at it, like you said, it very much has like the sorry to say it like this, I don't mean it in a rude way, but the non-professional blending of green screen
Yeah.
because you do get that dramatic like the dramatic shadows and like
Mhm.
how the green screen is usually blurred and all of that. Um, and so I was like, yeah, this does look very YouTube esque. Now
Yeah.
I think the trailer overall is like 2 minutes long. As I went through it, I do see there being a story there that might find intriguing if it was actually a series.
Yeah.
Um, you even said it when we were talking about it before we started recording. They do have like a weird blend of like animation and what for a second looked like claymation.
Yeah.
Um, so I do see it kind of being really psychedelic in sometimes. And although she is in some controversy now, but Olivia Wilde did that with Booksmart. There was a scene in that movie where the two main characters got like super drunk or super high. I can't remember which one. But they immediately had their perspectives in claymation
Yeah.
to show how trippy everything was. And I like that difference. I do think that when you do that, it kind of like gets people to think like, okay, what happened? What's going on? It's something different. As far as the reasoning why it was pulled, we were talking about it. I do think, for one, I think it's very ballsy to be like, oh yeah, these are clearly copyrighted characters, and we're gonna put it into a very professional, very public film festival
Yeah.
that like goes off and gets awards.
Yeah.
Like these movies that are entered into TIFF go off to be like Oscar performances.
Yes. Yes.
So them trying to put it in there, I think the article said that there was at least one screening, and then
Yeah.
everybody else's ticket for it was refunded, and then they were told, "Hey, it got pulled because of copyright."
Yeah.
Um, it's ballsy, but also, what do you really expect from that?
Mhm.
Like if that was genuinely your movie, why would you submit it to TIFF?
Just to get popularity. I mean, because the reason why I wanted to talk about this, first off, before I dive into why I wanted to talk about this, the reason why I really enjoyed the aesthetic of this movie is it reminds me of some of my favorite movies, which were Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and also, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it right now. I don't have my movies in this room, but it was another movie made by the same director of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And it was like this weird, wacky guy that had dreams. And fuck, I'm forgetting Sleepless. Like, I don't know. I'd have to look up the IMDb of it. But it's the same director. And it's like this guy that has dreams or whatever. And he's very wacky and crazy. And like half of the set was made out of cardboard and shit. And like had these really cool moments in it. And that trailer gave me the vibes of those kind of movies. And I love those. Like, I love artsy fartsy films. And so I would have watched this film for that. But so I think they had something here. And it's the concept of like,
Science of Sleep.
yes, Science of Sleep, fucking fantastic film. Loved it. And it was very artsy in that way. But I would say that I think the directors here could have had a good story. Like, hey, yeah, we want to tell the trans experience through the lens of the Joker, right? Like him going or she, what I don't know the pronouns in this particular movie, but this person going through a journey, and it's like through the eyes of the Joker, because there are some quotes in this movie that reference other things that have happened in comic book movies or shows or whatever, right? And one bad day could be, I mean, what I kind of want to know, what is one bad day to a trans person? Like what is that symbolism, so
True.
I think the movie and the story could be something great, but I don't like the headlines that are being pulled on Twitter that is like, this movie is pulled because of it's a trans story about a DC like parody or whatever, right? And a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, this is just Hollywood trying to pull down trans and LGBT community, blah blah blah." And I'm like, false. Like, look, I understand that there's a lot of problems in Hollywood when it comes to the LGBT community. I understand that there's a lot of problems just with minorities in general. Like, there's a lot of shit going on in the world. That's 100% factual. But trying to blame DC or WB for taking down something because you are using their rights without their permission is something they've done for a really long time.
And we even had this discussion several months ago in
Yeah.
regards to Ismahawk and the Bat Family
Yeah.
uh show that they were gonna do. Like, we were all over that when the trailer hit, and we're like, oh man,
Yeah.
I hope this is something that's gonna be really awesome. Hopefully that they're working with DC so it doesn't get taken down. And the next day, boom, taken down. It's
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. I used to be friends with this streamer who was making a DC short film with some animator, and like they tried to start a GoFundMe for it and they got shut down. DC was like, "No." They're like, "You can't do that." So they got shut down by DC. So it's not a trans thing, it's not an LGBT thing. It's that you use their property without their permission. And DC, if you are just putting this out on YouTube as a fan film, they usually don't say shit. And that's why the East Mohawk one was I think the East Mohawk one just got too big. Like, cause it looked really good. And people were like, oh, because East Mohawk has done Batman stuff before. Like he's done like Deathstroke versus Nightwing. Like that was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah,
And
that
they've
one
done
was
other
good.
stuff like that. And like that's how a lot of these superhero fights exist because they make them, but they're not meant for profit.
Yeah.
And this film was trying to go the Oscar route. You know what I mean? And trying to be in a proper film stuff. And DC's like, whoa, 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 we don't have any say in that. Like, we don't know what you could be doing with our characters. You know what I mean? Like, granted, and this is why I still want to make this video, and I will make this video on my new channel at times. There is this big disconnect where the world and like Hollywood and everything, video games, is totally cool with violence. We're totally cool with the Joker killing 100 people, going into a place and massacring a bunch of people. But we don't want the Joker going out there like raping people or sexually assaulting people, or even maybe, I mean, it could go as far as we don't want the Joker to be gay. Like that could be what they believe, right? Like
Yeah.
we heard rumors about, Jeff Johns or whatever saying so and so can't be black or whatever, right? We don't
Yeah.
have those aren't confirmed, those are alleged. Just want to throw that out there. But it's possible, right? I mean, obviously we made fun of this for so long. They don't want Batman going down on Catwoman. They don't like it.
Yeah.
So if DC sees something like this, they're like, whoa, fuck, we don't even know what's going on in this. Like, this is way out of our realm for our characters. What can we need to shut this down. And I think that's what it was. You know what I mean? It's a knee-jerk reaction. We saw it happen to Black Label. They just launched, they saw Batman's penis, and they were like, no, no, we cannot have that.
Yeah.
And, so I think that's why this was pulled. It's not pulled because of LGBT, like because they don't like gay people or anything like that. Because that is clerically false because all their characters are starting to be gay. So like you can't use that argument. And they just launched their first trans character. Like
Yeah.
we literally talked about this last week. So it's not like we hate the LGBT community when it comes from WB. It's just you use their property without their permission. And that's just how big business is. I would love to
Very
see
true.
this film though.
Now, how would you feel if DC pitched this story to like one of their random writers and say, "Hey, you're going to be on Black Label for this story."
Like this exact story.
Like taking elements from it and being like, "Hey, there's a 2-minute trailer, take that as inspiration, make the
Yeah.
story go."
I would. I mean, I don't know about throwing it to a random person. I would just get the writer of this movie to write it as a
That's
book.
what you would hope, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that would be, I would say it would be kind of shitty if it came out to be like, "Oh yeah, throwing I don't want to throw any random writer under the bus in this
mhm,
particular story, but so and so writer to write first trans Joker
yeah,
and in Black Label." And then we're
yeah,
like, "Huh, that sounds familiar." And then once we actually read it, it's like, "Hey, these are a lot of elements almost like," and you get like one shot for shot scene
yeah.
of what was in this trailer. That would be kind of shitty.
Yeah, I would. If anything, if you wanted to pair this director up with a writer, That way, you'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna write the dialogue and stuff for it. You can say what is good and what is not, and we'll just go by your story." Essentially, what Rosenberg is doing with the vampires, right?
Yeah, and
Like,
in all honesty, I wanted to bring this up because saying to for you to be like for me and you to be devil's advocate in that one part, but also DC has been taking a lot of risk in bringing a bunch of new writers in, and the way they have been bringing them in is with urban legends.
yeah,
And if you've noticed, I know that we haven't covered that book a whole lot, but those writers have gone on to write backups in main titles, and I'm pretty sure eventually they'll be pushed to their own book, whether it be a miniseries or an ongoing or whatever, because the big writers that we've seen in the past 8 years or so, 10 years for DC, there's like almost none of them left at DC.
yeah,
DC burned a lot of bridges in the transition to New 52 to Rebirth, and then from Rebirth to DC Universe, and then DC Universe to this new Infinite Frontier. Like
yeah.
a lot of bridges were burned,
Bitches.
unfortunately.
A lot of bitches were burned.
Fortunately, they've had some sort of rekindling with like these moments of, I think next month they're going to have the uh Death of Superman 35th anniversary or
Yeah.
30th anniversary, one of the two.
Batman versus Spawn.
Batman versus Spawn, exactly. So,
Yeah.
hopefully they can rekindle some of these relationships and we can start seeing some of these writers come back too.
Yeah, I would say if we have any aspiring writers in our audience for this, I something I'm going to be doing in the future when I actually find the time is I noticed I was reading one of the urban legends recently, and I forgot who it was. It was actually a notable writer. They only did a 2-page story, and I was like, "Oh, crazy." And so, what I would recommend to anybody out there that wants to write DC in the future, no matter what character you want to do, I suggest you write a story that can be told in 2 pages, a story that can be told in 4 pages, a story that can be told in 8 pages, and a story that can be told in 12 pages. And the reason why, those are the numbers of pages that will appear in these books like Urban Legends.
Yeah.
Because the only way you're going to get like a 24-page book is if you're already a solidified writer. They're not going to waste a full 24 pages on you, but you have a really good shot to, if you have a 2-page Batman story that they like, they'll print that. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
2 pages, that's easy. So I would suggest do 2, 4, 8, 12, write stories in all those formats, and then start just, I mean, that's a good way to practice, and it's a good way to just have like a
Oh,
Batman story backup.
it was the Two-Face story. I remember it was recent. It was like
No,
Two-Face
this one had
was,
Batman and Robin.
yeah,
It
Two-Face
was
was off on the
Two-Face?
side. Yeah.
You
If you
sure?
look, yeah. It was last Urban Legends, which I think was either this week or last week.
But it was a notable writer that did it though.
I don't remember the writer. I do remember the
It was Batman and
artist.
Robin going to the asylum for some reason.
Oh,
It
well
ends
then
with the asylum.
that may have been something completely different because recently there was a 2-page Batman and Robin with Mikhail Janin as the
Yeah,
artist.
that was it. That was it. That was it. That book.
Okay.
Because it
Yeah.
was Mikhail Dannon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Two-Face was off on the side. If you
Okay,
didn't
yeah. I
notice.
didn't even pay attention to that then. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, we kind of just threw it out there. I mean, I kind of just threw it out there, but there is going to be the Batman Spawn crossover in December. I don't really think there's much else to add to that. Is there?
Uh Not really. I haven't
Is
gotten a
McFarlane
whole,
writing that?
I believe so.
Okay. I'm still never gonna get over the moment when McFarlane praised a Batman design that I designed for my Bat box. I was literally wearing the shirt when I met McFarlane. He was gonna sign my thing. He stopped, looked at my shirt, and he's like, "That's a cool design," and then signed my fucking shit. I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Oh my god!" That was great. But all right, so there's that coming out in December, and the final thing of this week, ladies and gentlemen, James Gunn confirms Harley Quinn to return to the DCEU. Now, Clay, how do you expect Harley Quinn to come back? Do you think it's a show or do you think it's a movie?
I think it's a movie.
Okay.
Because I was gonna be, I think we discussed it as far as like right after Peacemaker, we had heard rumors of both Idris Alba and Harley Quinn working on projects.
Yeah.
And they were very vague. And we had said that it could be a another series of James Gunn, you know, the whole continuation of Peacemaker with Waller trying to find all these other people that are basically going to call her out, so she's going to try to kill them. She's going to hire Deathstroke, and then we would see Harley Quinn in that.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore. And it's hard, it's honestly hard to say with everything that's been going on with WB, with them not having a studio head yet. It's really hard to see anything being solidified and it making complete sense, you know? Like
Yeah.
you could totally still go down the rabbit hole that we've already started after Justice League and just keep going until they decide, hey, we're gonna soft reboot or whatever.
Hmm.
But we're kind of just like twiddling our thumbs until then. We're just like, well, you know, whatever projects come out, I guess we'll watch, you know.
Yeah.
Uh but I do think that Gunn will have her appear in a movie. Now, if he surprises me in like episode 5 of season 2 of Peacemaker, she just fucking shows up somewhere, that would
Yeah.
be awesome.
I could see her wanting to do a show though. You know, she's going back to the first ever show that she was famous for. That soap opera or whatever that was about airplanes or some shit. She's gonna be on the final episode.
Really?
Yeah, so she's the type of person that doesn't give a fuck. Like she knows where she came from. So I think she's down to be on TV.
That's
Like,
kind of cool.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if your family was into it. My grandmother is still like trying to, we're working something out for us to co-pay on Peacock for her to watch Days of Our Lives.
Mm,
Uh but what's his name who played Green Arrow on Smallville? He was on uh This Is Us. Justin, I can't remember his last name. Um but he got big because of Smallville and This
yeah.
Is Us. He actually returned for a small cameo in Days of Our Lives. So I think it's pretty cool that these bigger actors are starting to become bigger actors are going back to their roots on some of
Yeah.
this stuff because I do genuinely think ever since I got called out by Manu Bennett himself
Hmm.
at a convention. This was like right when Lord of the Rings was coming out, when he was playing a goblin or an orc. Sorry, not a goblin, an orc,
Yeah.
CGI orc. And people knew him from Spartacus, but I knew him from Arrow. So I was like, I don't know about these guys, but I know you from Arrow, and so I'm gonna ask you this question. And talking about how, hey, would you ever want to be Deathstroke on the big screen? He's like, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, if it weren't for these people, you wouldn't have even seen me on Arrow. And I was like, all right, I'm
Damn.
gonna sit down now. But
Damn.
this was
I do
around.
want to point out though that Manu Bennett did get arrested in our city after a convention.
Yes
So
he did, yes he did. But
you
this was
know,
also around the time where like Halle Berry was on Fox and John Malkovich was on Stars.
yeah,
And he was like, actors are starting to realize that TV is the big thing, that they are
yeah,
getting more screen time, they're getting bigger contracts, and I think that anybody nowadays can be on TV. Like
yeah.
with just a little bit of money and a good contract, anybody can be on the small screen.
I think I honestly think that Margot Robbie knows that and I feel like this is a lot of women in Hollywood. They know they have a shelf life, right? Because unfortunately, it's still Hollywood goes off of beauty a lot. Like, they're if you're beautiful, you'll get it. Like Megan Fox got a bunch of movies for a really long time because she was hot. You know what I mean? Because she's a
Yeah.
terrible actress. She's terrible. I'm sorry, Megan. You're probably a sweet person, but terrible actress. But I think a lot of these actresses nowadays, and I've heard some like roundtable discussions. Like there was like a popular clip that came out recently of Drew Barrymore saying that she likes working with women directors or whatever. Like there was a lot of women saying they're like, oh yeah, we don't. I never work with women. She was like, I find women directors and I work with them. Like you just have to be willing to do a short film or an independent or whatever, you know, because like we can prop them up. So Margot Robbie has shown that she really wants to get into the behind the scenes business. You know, she's already an executive producer on some things. She was on Birds of Prey and all that jazz. I wouldn't be surprised if she would do a series if it allowed her to like direct an episode and maybe write an episode and like really do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
because I could see her wanting to be a director at some point. And I think everybody gets started in the executive producer role, learns that, and then becomes a director. And I wouldn't mind her learning behind James Gunn. Like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I think a Harley Quinn series would be better than a movie too.
I think so as well. And speaking of Harley Quinn, I know that I still need to catch up on like 3 episodes.
Hmm.
But apparently James Gunn has been in a lot more episodes than we originally thought he was going to be.
Oh, really? They're
It's been
still
an
doing
on
the clay
the
facing?
yeah, it's been an
Yeah,
ongoing joke the entire series.
nice.
So he's had like possibly 3 or 4 lines in almost every episode.
Okay.
So I
Probably filmed
think
them
that
all in one day. Yeah.
but even so, I think that the relationship with WB and James Gunn is like solidified. I
Yeah.
genuinely do.
Yeah, he just shot something down today about Scooby Doo. Somebody was trying to like some Screen Rant, which if we needed to knock down Screen Rant anymore, James Gunn he was like, this is 100% false, and just like shot them down. So
Nice.
don't be running around with Screen Rant things. But yeah, overall, I think I want to see Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn again. I've said that I would love to see Margot Robbie play Harley Quinn until she dies. You know what I mean? Because like we've seen old lady Harley movies, so you could do Harley Quinn forever if you wanted to.
Yeah.
She could be the Deadpool. She could jump universes. If they even reboot it, they're just like, ah, hi, I'm Harley. You know what I mean? So you could do something like that, and I think people love her. She's got a good personality, all that kind of jazz. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. So but that is pretty much all the stuff we have. I don't think there's anything else unless they're dropping some stuff. Do you want to talk about the thing you sent me that is from the bogus ass website, or it seems like a bogus ass website with Aquaman? You sent it in the
So
Discord.
I did. So this is I feel like we need a little bit more information
Hmm.
because from what we have been told, everything on the slate after the Flash
Yeah.
is going to be a part of this new DCEU. And currently, the only thing after the Flash is Aquaman.
Hmm.
Um, but more so, we also heard from Sandberg, the director of Shazam, saying that that movie has been done for a while. There is nothing that needs to be added to it. They're not doing reshoots. They're not doing anything. It is ready to go. And they're
Yeah.
just basically waiting until March of next year to release it.
Hmm.
So that leaves The Flash and Aquaman. Of course, these two movies are said to have appearances of both Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton for
Yeah.
reasons unknown as far as Aquaman goes. But we have also heard they're not going to put any more money into these movies.
Yeah.
But recently, there has been a lot of debate on, well, if they are going to soft reboot, they're going to have to rework the back half of this Flash script to equal out to what's going on in Aquaman,
Hmm.
or vice versa, work out the script of Aquaman to fit the world of what is left after the Flash.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, you kind of have to pay people to do that. So you're having to put more money into this. I will take this with a grain of salt, but the article has stated, I can't even remember from I think it was Fandom Wire.
Fandom Wire. I've never heard of this one. It seems like a fake ass website.
You've never heard of Fandom Wire?
No.
Wow. Okay. They are saying that Aquaman 2 is going under excruciating or some other verbiage of reshoots in order to put in Batman like a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that.
Um, I just don't. I mean, if it needs to be redone, I can understand it. I mean, you gotta. If it is true, and they are trying to put in more Batman to make it make sense, you know, Zazov said that they'll try to make the best movies they can, and why not?
Now, the only reason why I would want Batman in this movie is I don't know if you remember this, but in the early like concept art of the first Aquaman movie,
Mhm.
there was like a concept art of like Ocean Master taking his army onto the land,
Yeah.
and it was like a sky view, and you saw a red blur along with the Batwing. You actually
Mhm.
saw Batman like piloting it, and I was like, that's kind of dope. Like Aquaman being like, "Hey, I need some help." This is basically, if you've ever read the Justice League arc of New
Yeah.
52, there was a huge arc with Atlantis. Um, if you tell me that Aquaman is like, "Hey, Batman, you're the only person with the resources that I would need to help these people at bay, like call the Justice League or whatever," and
Mhm.
like they're all unavailable, and Batman decides, "Hey, I could still help." Like, I think that would be cool if you give me a couple scenes of just like Batman fighting some Atlanteans and like in the Batwing for some
Yeah.
action sequences. I'm fine with that. But
Yeah.
if you are like forcing him in there to like tell this other story that is like continuing from the Flash, I think we're
Mhm.
gonna notice it too much.
I think the way you could fit Bruce Wayne, mostly Bruce Wayne, and then of course, Aquaman knows it's Batman. The way you fit him in here is we know that this is supposed to be a like Aquaman trying to save the world kind of thing, right? Like
Yeah.
America or not America, but the world is polluting the seas, all that kind of jazz. That's what we've heard. You find out that Aquaman, one of Bruce Wayne's companies, is tied to some of the pollution that is hurting Atlantis or whatever,
Yeah.
and you have him have a conflict with Bruce Wayne. And so that's how you make him part of the movie a little bit more.
Well, from what we had heard, the initial reshoots or whatever when that Ben Affleck Jason Momoa picture came out was
Mhm.
we heard that the reasoning behind him going into the movie is that there is a plot point that Atlanteans are being poisoned by either the pollution or something within the pollution.
Oh, okay.
And so they are going to Bruce saying, "Hey, is there any way you can help us?"
Yeah.
And so that seemed like it would be a fairly small scene
Mhm.
or a small segment of scenes being like, okay, let me observe this Atlantean, let me keep him in the Bat Cave under surveillance, and then like every once in a while cut back to him to see if he has improved some sort of cure. Like I could see
Yeah.
that going on,
Yeah.
but I just don't want there to be like a very obvious like I am only here because the Flash was before this movie and you need to know that I am Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think they could find a creative way to do it. And you got to remember, Jason Wan is behind this, so
Yeah.
he's pretty good at storytelling. So I'm pretty sure he'd find a creative way to fix it. But yeah, I don't know. I think they could easily fit him in there, especially if it's something where it's just him and somebody else doing the shoots. And then I think you could easily fit Batman into a battle scene, like because you could CGI all that if you wanted to. You
Yeah.
just gotta have him in the cockpit, like doing whatever. So I think that'd be kind of cool. And you could probably even do like if there is any fighting, you don't even need Affleck there for that. It's just hey,
Yeah,
we need the stunt
exactly.
double.
You just
So
get a stunt double within the cowl and you're good.
yeah, yeah, do ADR if you need to. But other than that, yeah, I think we'll see what happens. What I think is smart is both of these two movies are very controversial because of one has Amber Heard in it and the other one has Ezra Miller in it. So I think they're like, we need more Batman to counteract these bitches. So like, I think that's what they're doing. That could be part
Probably.
of why they're doing it. So, anyways, that's all we got for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
So this week, this upcoming week, Star Wars Alliance is going to be reviewing the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Andor that drops on Wednesday. So make sure that you are subscribed to the Geek First YouTube channel to watch our review of all 3 of those episodes. Ranger Alliance will also be on this week. We're going to be covering the last issue of Godzilla versus the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. No real news has come out of anything else, though, unfortunately. Um, as far as like the Netflix cinematic universe for Power Rangers. But yeah, that is basically it. We're going to be going over majority of what we talked about today on DC Alliance, on top of some other stuff in regards to uh, some of the CW stuff, predictions for Black Adam and their box office and everything else. So go check that out.
Noise. All my content right now is either on Twitch or on my Shorts channel. Go check that out. I will be dropping actually an Apex trailer reaction here in the next hour or so. Well, I mean, it'll be out way before you guys hear this podcast. But yeah, there will be an Apex trailer if you're into that game. And might be streaming later tonight. Well, gonna be streaming later tonight. The new Fall Guys season has dropped. So we're gonna be doing that later tonight. So
I saw that they announced that Fall Guys is going to space.
it is. And it's funny because we have somebody that lives and breathes Fall Guys in our Discord, which is Mel. And burp, she just said Fall Guys new is hard as heck. This is the Dark Souls of Fall Guys season. I only played two matches, and like one of the running relay ones was kind of hard, but I think it's just because it was the first time I was playing it.
Yeah.
But there is one stage where it's called like pixel painting, and it's a team of four trying to paint pixels on a board, and you have to match it to the screen. And if you're not in the same team and being like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? You're just jumping on pixels and you're ruining the whole picture. And so it sucks.
Damn.
So luckily I have a lot of people that play Fall Guys, and I'll just be like, dude, we'll communicate and we'll be fucking good. But yeah, that was pretty rough. But I just really hate, it's funny because Apex is dropping something right now apparently. But why did all these games have to drop everything on Tuesdays? Like that's like I mean, I know today's Thursday, but like everybody, well, I guess everything usually drops on Tuesdays. This is slightly different, but it seems like, oh, look, new seasons. I'm like, bro, why do y'all gotta spread this shit out? Talk to each other. Like, come on. But anyway, it's competition, I guess. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys are enjoying the start of year 4 of this podcast. But as always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.
News Weekly.